They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sport, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Hello there, a warm welcome to Life with Brian, episode 11. Can you believe it's episode 11 already? I'm Mark Godfrey. Brian McClare is here, of course. Brian, how are you doing? Let's not talk about Scotland, eh?
No, let's not talk about football at the moment. I'm in the finest of fine fettles. Thank you very much.
Good. And Matthew Chris here too, as usual. How are you doing, Matthew?
Very well, thanks. Hello, everybody.
And our special guest this week is comedian, actor, podcaster and presenter Justin Moorhouse. Justin, welcome. Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. Got a new little dog here. And yeah, everything's good. Got my new little spaniel down here. She's a rescue dog. She was from a puppy smuggling gang. And when I told my friend, he thought she was a smuggler. he thought she'd been arrested. Smuggling. I said, no, the gang smuggle puppies. They're not like this intricate network of puppies going, let's get some gear in.
I've just been listening to another podcast that you're going to do, and you've just done, Justin, called Life Goals.
Oh, with Theo Delaney.
And there's a couple of things in there that lots of things in there that amuse me, but Brian Robson, I was fortunate enough to be play with Robbo, but also that I was for a period of time I was his roommate, because in those days, the club was too tight. I'm not too tight. They changed it later on, not long after I left it, so everybody could have a room each, you know. But in those days you had a roomie, and for a period of time I had Robbo. And now that when you told that story about saying that. Put your arm around you as a player, as a person, from how you managed, and that I was delighted that he said something funny, because in my whole time of knowing Robbie, he has remotely funny. I love him. I think he's a great guy, wonderful. That's something that I'm delighted about, that he said something like that. But I listened to a few things you said talking about humour, and that. You or someone might think something's hilarious, but it just falls flat. One of the other things, I thought you might have married up, you're losing your brother at Old Trafford with a brother called Martin by Tom Robinson Band as part of your choice of music.
Right, no, I don't know that song.
Wonderful that, if you take your brother at the game, what a memory that is, that you've lost him.
Yeah.
No. How are you going to go home and explain? You've lost your brother.
Yeah, lost him.
What it came to me was that you're talking about music, and a lot of the stuff I loved, that you choices of tracks. But I was wondering though, what was the first gig you went to? Where was it? Who was it? Was it any significance in your life, or was it just?
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it, where you can always pick the cool one, can't you? Or you can go with the real one.
Well,
and the real one was I was about 12 or 13, and because my mum knew the manager of the Tameside Theatre in Ashton, we got tickets to go and see Fat Larry's band.
Oh, Zoom.
Who opened with Zoom.
They finished with Zoom. And
finished with Zoom. And encored with Zoom. They played it 3 times. So that was the first one. I can't think the actual first gig. I probably, do you know what? I think it was the House Martins, and that remains sort of like probably my second favourite gig. But my first favourite gig I saw the Beautiful South on their first tour, and they were just incredible. I saw them at the International in a really small venue, and they're like in a brass section and everything. And they were. I mean, I think they are quite sort of acerbic anyway. You know, it's like sugar-coated acid, isn't it, what they do, that pop music. And I think a lot of people like them and don't get them, if you know what I mean.
Well, they don't. I don't think a lot. I think a lot of people listen to the music, don't know if they actually listen to lyrics. So if you listen to their lyrics and what they're actually saying, they're wonderful and pertinent to many different situations. A lot of them very realistic. You know, the obviously clearly the trips that Heaton takes to Rotterdam to enlighten himself works wonderfully, because that's where he goes to write.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? That I love that.
He goes there to write all the time.
I remember in the sort of 90s as well, he used to go and watch loads of Italian football on his own. He used to just go to Bari and places like that and just watch football. As I remember reading about it once, and he's an interesting bloke, isn't he? I think he's a complex man, but I think he's great. My favourite thing about Beautiful South is when they split up. They officially split up due to musical similarities.
I just wanted to give you a little sort of underline and a support for your irritation of having to travel to Crystal Palace.
All right.
Particularly midweek, because when I was playing, we wanted, certainly me, and I think there's a general view that we always wanted to get relegated, were Ipswich, Norwich, and Crystal Palace. They were the three worst trips to go.
Just based on that.
This is on the bus. You go on the bus into the midweek game. I mean, that game coming back from Crystal Palace after Eric had a little chat with the guy in the crowd was just a horrendous journey back. You know, it's just, as you said, you know, you travel to London and then you have to travel again.
Yeah,
and it's just getting up home at 2:00 in the morning was miserable. So yeah, we would pick those three teams and then to go down to the drive from Manchester to East Anglia. It's wonderful with all the scenery. You get to see all the rolling hills of Lincolnshire, and 5 hours down to Anglia and Suffolk and all that kind of thing. So it was like, no, we would be supporting whoever was playing those teams. A bit unfairly on them, I suppose, but just in the fact that it was a ball tightener of a journey for us.
It's funny you mentioned Eric Cantona there, because I think, Mark, you had something to mention about Mr. Cantona, didn't you?
Yeah, obviously the pair of you have had supporting roles to Eric at one time or another. Justin, what was it like working with him on the film, looking for Eric?
You know what? It was kind of so. I never think of myself as an actor. I've always been really lucky at getting things on, a little bits of it. I'm not trained or anything. I don't pretend to be a great actor, but sort of Ken Loach is in town, and the sort of audition process was you have to go and meet him at Friends Meeting House, you know, the Quakers place behind the library on Mount Street, and you go in and just chatted, and he went, "Oh, so what have you been up to? What do you do? Where did you grow up? What jobs have you done?" And you tell him all that, and he goes, "Right, thanks, see you again." And you go out and you tell your agent, you go, "I don't think it went very well. I didn't have to read anything." But he just gets to know people and gets to know them. And then you do 2 or 3 different sort of chats like that. And then you meet some different people. And a lot of people he works with actually are from Glasgow, like a lot of the production team and the crew. They're all sort of like a band that have been together. And then, so I get the part. And then one day he rings me up and he says, "Can I let you into a secret?" And I said, "Yeah, I thought he was going to tell us he was like a Tory or something like that." You know, it's like, this is just a character that I do. Lord Loach of Nuneaton. And he says, "Oh, we've got Eric Cantona in the film." And I was like, "Fucking hell, this is great." And he says, "But no one's going to know. Literally, no one's going to know, including the lead actor, until he appears on screen." So that's how it happens. So if you've seen the film, Steve Everts, who plays Little Eric, turns around and goes, "Oh, what the fuck hell are you doing here?" And that was his reaction, because he thought he heard this sort of like these French voices, but we had like a Belgian crew, and you know, Belgium, it's just the French Wales, isn't it? And he just thought it was them. But anyway, before that, he said to us, he said, "I want you to come and do some improv with Eric Cantona, you and John Henshaw. He's not lived in Manchester for a while, and I want to get him up to speed on the..." accents and the way people speak and things like that. So they had me who sounds like this, like Percy Sugden and Slice of Cake. And then they had Johnny shot the side of his mouth, so you can't hear what he's saying anyway, doing this thing with it. So we went and did like a morning with him. And you know, it's like footballers, you know, when you meet footballers, you're just giddy, aren't you? You kind of like, you know, they've lived your dreams. These people have lived your dreams, and without being too melodramatic about it, you know, football and United and Cantona and all that has got me through some difficult parts of my life, and has, you know, taken me. It's the only time I get taken away from myself when I go watching football. So to see him in this room and it's Cantona and everything else that goes with it, and the mystique and everything else, and you probably just know him as an ordinary bloke, Brian, but we were doing all this thing, and at the end we're having a cup of tea, and I'm sat there going, I'm having a cup of tea with Eric Cantona, and he pushes the plate of biscuits towards me and he says, would you like a jamais d'aujourd'hui? I just went, I'm all right, thanks, Eric. And then, so then working with him, it you know, I'm sure this will be backed up by anybody who's ever met him. He was just 100% normal and ordinary, and I mean, not ordinary, still Eric Cantona, he still floated everywhere, but he queued up with everybody. He didn't, you know, there's no star treatment, you know, they're very much team player. We had hundreds of extras on the film on different days, and he never left anyone without a sign thing. People were bringing stuff to him, and he was signing stuff like until it went dark. We were on a cricket pitch once in Salford where we had this unit base, and he just signed and signed and signed and signed. And he was just great. I just thought I didn't have much to do with him, sort of like working with him, filming with him, but he was around and everything. He was just, you know, meeting your heroes is sometimes fraught, but he exceeded any expectations I might have. And then I was really lucky to go to Cannes to the film festival when the film was in competition. 2 or 3 of us from the film went, and typical Ken Loach fashion, we were in a van. We got picked up from the Trafford Centre in a van and taken to Liverpool Airport, where we got EasyJet to Nice. And then when we got to Nice, the festival took over then. And then we had cars and everything else. It was all kind of swanky, and it was really nice. But they wanted to make an impression. So we walked from the hotel to the festival theatre, where, I don't know if you've been to Cannes, it's at the end of the Croisette, whatever they call it. It's the huge big thing. And we walked down like a team, you know. We walked out the hotel, and Cantona was at the front. And I said to him, I said, all right, Captain. And he went, it is a little like this. And then we just walked and think, and it's just magical moments, you know, that those sort of like pinch yourself kind of, never experienced it. And then, you know, the film did well. And then we watched it in Parswood Cinema as well with Alex Ferguson. We watched it, just him and a few people from the club, and him, and then he turned around and he enjoyed it, and all these amazing things happened. And then I hosted the premiere at the Red Cinema Salford, you know, at Media City. So I hosted the premiere. So this whole journey for me was just incredible, from first meeting Ken Loach to finding out about Eric Cantona, filming the film, which was great, and then the Cannes thing, and then seeing your face on a poster. And I got my mum and dad a car. My mate's got a car company, and I said, "Oh, will you take my mum and dad?" And they hired a massive Rolls Royce for my mum and dad. So my mum and dad arrived in this Rolls Royce. It was like premiere. We walked in. I introduced Ken Loach and Eric to the audience. They said a few words. We watched the film. I sat there with my mum, and at the end, I turned to my mum and I went, "Well," she went, "It got better towards the end." Cheers, Mum. So yeah, it was a very special, magical time. I don't know how long you play with him, Brian. He's
the whole time that he was there, I was there the whole time. So
he's a good man, isn't he?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I've always, when I talk about him, he came. We knew he was a great player. I'd seen him playing before he went to Leeds. I was fortunate enough to be a sub for Scotland when we went to play in France, against France, and part of the Andy Roxburgh used to try and use comparisons sometimes to give you to make the opposition appear to be less good than they were.
Mm-hmm.
I always remember him talking about 3 players that day. There was a little lad called Perez. There was Deschamps, who's the national coach now, and there was Eric, and he described Perez, and this is him talking about how we've nothing to fear. These are maybe the 3 most influential players at the time, and he said that Perez is like a poor man's Pat Nevin. He said Deschamps, he said he's not a patch on you, Murdo. Now that's Murdo McLeod. He played for Celtic and went on to play for Borussia Dortmund. And as for that Cantona, he's a poor man's Joe Jordan. Okay, right. So the first thing we noticed is this: it's absolutely pissing down. I mean, it's lashing down. All the French players have got moulded boots, like soft, hard ground boots, and all the Scottish players have got the biggest studs, like rugby studs, biggest studs you've ever seen. And we thought all these would be sliding all over the place. Just a bit like you mentioned earlier, Eric was gliding across the pitch.
Yeah.
After 5, they said Deschamps never gets a goal. Perez is a poor man's Pat Nevin. After 5 minutes, Deschamps scored. After 10 minutes or something like that, Perez lays the ball on for Eric, and he beats 2 players and makes it 2-0. And we're getting beat 3-0, I think, by half time. And it's one of those games where you're watching as a sort of thinking, don't put me on. Right. But with any this reputation as the enfant terrible. But when it came, same thing as you said, he was wonderful. I think he felt at home right away, and the almost immediate rapport when he scored his first goal at Hillsborough was evident that he was going to make a difference to what we were doing, and he was a catalyst to us to winning that Premier League in the first championship United had secured for a long time. But a great guy, funny. Didn't say very much at times, but he would always laugh along, subtly at different things, and I got on really, really well. I mean, I used to mess about with him, saying that it's not fair that you can have some Ponce poet as a hero. He can pretend, you paint. I've seen his paintings. It was painting by numbers, but he's standing in a beautiful field in a money-like setting in some place in France, and he turns it round, and it is like painting by numbers, and you can have your tattooed Geronimo, it's okay because he says, and I'm a wee boy from Scotland. If I come out with that sort of thing, I'd get ridiculed, He said, "How'd you get away with it?" And he just did that perfect Gaelic thing where he just shrugged and put his hands out, basically saying, without saying it, "I am Cantona."
Yeah.
He was quality, good guy.
I met him again one more time. He invited us to when he was at New York Cosmos. He invited us when they played United for Scholes' testimonial, and we went to the after party afterwards and walked into Lowry, and he was talking to Pele, and I walked in, and he sort of like said to Pele, "Sorry, sorry, Pele. I just need to talk to my friend here." And I was like, "This is fucking brilliant."
These are things that when you were getting cats in the bus to school as a 14 and 15-year-old dreaming, you were dreaming of working as a salesperson, and then further down the line you were going to be a famous actor.
See,
things that you're going to get introduced to Pele, that you're Eric's best mate.
Life with Brian.
I read something that said that you told your first joke at something like a holiday camp when you were 8. Is that right, or is that just bullshit?
Well, no. My grandparents moved to Cleveland, and so we used to go many times at the weekend. Like most people from around here, they sort of retired and went to live in Blackpool, Cleveland, and they used to go to the Legion on a Sunday afternoon, and they had like a kids' talent show, and I got up and I told a joke, but it was the the old, the King Kong's balls, ping pong balls joke. So I told that when I was 8, and everybody, I remember people laughing and being shocked. And I thought, I like this. This is good. Like, and my mum was horrified and sort of like happy at the same time. So I thought that's for me. But then I never really thought, like, I wasn't a stagey kid. I never did anything like that. I wasn't in any drama clubs. It never ever occurred to me to do it until much, much later in life. I was 29 before I became a comedian.
And yeah, so I look at things, and so you're the oldest, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the oldest, and I felt everything I had to do was I was like the first to do it, pioneer thing. So I was, and I still am shy when it comes to new things. Mm-hmm. So for you to do that, to stand up there in that situation and do what you did, I think is at that time is very brave. I wouldn't have never been able to do that at that age. Even if I had the best joke in the world in Harmony,
Yeah, people say that about comedians a lot. They say, "Oh, you must be very brave," and it's that old joke, and well, you see my act, I'm brave. But people say you must be brave, and I don't think it's a brave thing. I think comedians are sort of like born, or they've got the need to do that. But it's wanting to do it in the first place is the first thing. The actual doing it is inevitable. If you want to do it, that's where that's where the click comes. No one ever wants to do it and doesn't do it. It's an itch that you've got to scratch, and I think it's wanting to do it, which makes many of us odd, Many of us are just, functioning weirdos.
Isn't that everybody in the planet?
Yeah, it is, of course. But I mean, we found our thing, which is good.
So you're telling that joke. Who told you that joke? Where did you get it from? Who was the one that, or several members of your family who were funny? Was it your parents,
think so.
Grandparents, or?
I think everybody. I think everyone was funny. Everybody was funny in the mates and everything else. I did. My grandparents were both from big families. I used to have this uncle called Uncle Norman, who's the funniest bloke that I'd ever, and still is one of the funniest blokes. He used to make funny jokes and do daft things. I remember once he said to me when I was about 7 or 8, my dad had been made redundant again. He's like, his dad was always getting made redundant. It was just that's the job that he had and the times we lived in. He was always. And Uncle Norman, he said, "Hey, your dad's looking for a job, isn't he?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, I think I've got one for him." And I was thinking, "Oh, this is really good because my dad can get a job." And he said, "It's at the sardine factory." I said, "All right." He said, "What it is?" He said, "The sardines, they get put in the tin," he says, "and they come down and thing." He says, "And your dad has to get a matchstick." He says, "And just as he come past, he says, he has to make sure all the eyes are closed before they put the lids on, because no one wants to see a sardine's eye when he opened the tin." And I went, "Right, I'll tell my dad. I'll tell him there's a job going." So do you remember? Does anybody remember before sort of the internet and memes and shared jokes and everything? My dad used to bring like pages of jokes home and printouts from work and pieces of paper that if you folded them one way, they're like an emu, and if you unfold them another way, they're like a woman with her legs apart and things like that. So there's all that going on, and I remember a lot of Rag Week books that they would buy, and full of jokes and everything else. But just watching telly, I devoured comedy on telly. Dick Emery and Les Dawson and Two Ronnies. I wasn't a massive Morecambe and Wise fan really, but I love Dave Allen. Even when I was dead young, I just thought it was exciting and just like making people laugh. I love Bob Bunkhouse and Bruce Forsyth and all sorts of people.
Who are your comedy heroes, Brian?
They're very similar. I love and I still love when you mess about with the several hundred channels you've got on the satellite platform. That I'll just be scanning through for some, maybe say, because I can't abide listening to people at half time in the football. So they're looking for something to watch for 15 minutes. I'll often go to the cooking channel to see what Gok Kwan's conjuring up, or I'll come across porridges on, and I just think that's the most wonderful thing. Even now, I mean, there's it's 30, 40 years ago, but it still seems the jokes are funny. They're just timeless, and the situation they're in is funny.
It's perfect, isn't it? Because they're trapped.
I mean, I've seen a little bit of the new one, which is garbage. In comparison, and there's some some things that have been updated like that. But then a very similar thing that we had a rag publication when I was at Glasgow Uni. It was called the Agora, and some of the jokes in that were sick and sexist and all sorts of different things, but which was as of its time. But then I started, for some reason, catching Monty Python, which I just thought that was wonderful.
I would never really, I never really enjoy. I think my sort of Monty Python thing with the young ones.
Yeah.
When the young ones came along for me, I was that age where it just really got me, and it was subversive. But I used to watch that with my dad. My dad, he died a couple of years ago, but he just loved laughing. Like, he was a bit of an expert on Tom and Jerry. Like, Tom and Jerry come on and he'd go, it's a 1954. I'm not watching this. Like, he liked the early stuff. He hated the newer stuff. The newer stuff from like 40 years ago. He go, I'm not watching this. It's garbage. You know, like when Tom began to speak, he was like, "Game's done. It's done.
Yeah.
It's over. Game's gone."
While we're talking about youth and everything, I was just thinking we should touch on football a bit. Justin, it's no secret that you're a big United man. I mean, when did you first start going? What were your first Old Trafford memories?
Well, people say, "How did you choose?" It was just we were United fans, and that was it. And I went in about 1983, something like that. My dad never took me. My dad, there was 4 kids, and like I mentioned before, always being made redundant. There wasn't a lot of money around, and in those days, I don't think most of my mates, they just went on their own. And so I was about 12, 13 when I got a paper round. I started going to Old Trafford. Used to go to Hyde United as well a lot and watch Hyde United on a Monday night. They were great. One of my favourite players ever played was a lad called George O'Garney, who played for Hyde United. He was a winger. He was incredible. He was one of like the first black players to play in the non-league as regular. And he used to get absolute dog's abuse, but he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, like a Hyde United legend. And then started going to United 12, 13, but it was a day. It was the full day. It was like, we'd get the bus at 12 o'clock. We'd go and wait for the special outside the Grand Hotel where Big Ron had his pre-match meal, and the players would come out and wait to us, go and have a big massive steak dinner, and then they'd wait to get the bus, and we'd be at the ground for 1 o'clock, and in the ground at 1:30 when it opened, and used to go on Stretford End and stand on the left side, and just those are real formative times for me. Those are like where the friends that I made then and the friends that we're friends with now, I'm still, best mates with now. And we, still watch the football together and everything else. And then when I was about 14, 15, started going to a few away games. And, and never looked back really, never havered.
So if you were watching United regularly in the mid-'80s, you must remember clearly when... a certain Brian McClare signed for United. I mean, any standout memories of?
Well, it's funnily like I've got this. I just realised as I was drinking, I've got my Celtic mug here. So in the 80s, there was this strange thing going on where if you was a United fan, you were a Celtic fan as well. So it was the big United Celtic thing. So we had a mate called Scott's Prem Ken, whose mum and dad were like from Glasgow.
The Welsh lad, wasn't he?
Yeah, the Welsh lad, yeah. And we used to go in his house. He used to speak with a Scottish accent to his mum and dad. Then he'd come out and he'd go, "Yeah, all right, we're going to the shops." It was like really weird. So he kept us up to date with what was going on in Scottish football. And we'd heard about this guy who'd scored 30 goals for Celtic. And we were all like sort of quasi-Celtic fans with our half and half hats on and everything else. So it was like, I remember when you came, you were the saviour. You're going to be the man that scores, 20 goals, the first person since 1967. And you did, you smashed it, didn't you? And yeah, it's very, very exciting times.
Yeah, it was for me as well. Yeah, but one of the things that I liked when I was listening again about was that you just mentioned it again there. How do you choose which side of the Stretford End or which part of the Stretford End? Is that a historical thing, or was that the nearest to because it was closest to the tunnel? What was the?
No.
I loved the bit where you said you were throwing coins at the right side or the middle, the tunnel side. Well, I thought that because I loved it. I thought I was fortunate to kind of go through that period of time where you've got the old Celtic Park. And then when I came to Manchester United, you had the paddock, you had the Stretford End, you had all of that sort of stuff, and you had people getting locked out if they weren't there at the time that you were talking.
It was sick. So we started just going there. We walked up the steps. I mean, people always talk about the first moment you walk up at the back of the Stretford End, and you walk up, and you've never seen green as that. You've never seen red as that. You've never seen. The place looked massive and tiny at the same time, and there was nobody there. We just picked our spot. We got our spot, and from the first time that I stood on that left side Stretford End, about halfway up next to the tunnel, I never stood anywhere else on the Stretford End. Occasionally, this is so bad. We used to go in the Stretford paddock sometimes because it was cheaper. Sorry, no, it wasn't. It was more expensive to get in the Stretford paddock, like 20p. But often the queue wasn't as long. So we'd go in Stretford paddock, and then at the bottom of the fence, somebody pulled the bars open so you could walk through. And then walk all the way around. But it's just I don't know, Stretford End. It was just like a synonymous for me. I was always too frightened to go in United Road when I was little, because that's where and then it seemed to me that's where the hooligans were, and then the lads in the K stand above the away fans. They were like the hooligans with money. So I was never interested in any of that argy-bargy. I'm not a fighter nor a lover. I'm an observer in many ways. A voyeur, some may call it. I just used to stand there. It was really weird. We used to sing, we had a left side, we had a left side Stretford, and then the right side would sing. And then we'd join together, both sides, and sing shit on the tunnel. I mean, you think about it now, it's pointless, but,
I was thinking, Brian, your first goal for United was at K-stand end, wasn't it? Scoreboard end, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Did it, when you finally scored in front of the Stretford End, did it mean more to you, or was it not something that really?
No, you're always looking for that sort of thing. Any goal at the end, with you would say the biggest part of the support is going to be potentially the most enthusiastic, the most fanatic part, is because you're and we spoke about this a few times, Justin, is that the situation we've got now is robbing the supporters and the players that joyous celebration when they score a goal. I mean, I saw the first thing that Ronaldo does when he puts the ball in the net, his second goal yesterday, he looks to the linesman.
Yeah.
So he looks at the linesman, and the linesman hasn't put out his flag, so he knows he's got a chance that it's a goal. It may still be referred. And just that joy of celebrating with the.
I found really weird in lockdown is when a player scores, and it's like if he scored against the rivals, and he runs off doing this, like, what are you doing? There's nobody in the ground. They're not showing anything anyway. Some of them are not the brightest, are they? Some of them are not the brightest. I saw two kids coming off the field. They'd playing a kids game under 11s. And they came off and they were talking to each other, and they were literally doing that thing where they put their hand in front of the mouth. Like, who should think filming this?
I don't know why they do it now in the professional game. I mean, what they're doing now is trying to. I mean, all kids people learn things by mimicking, don't they? So things that see adults or people doing. So they're now doing the same sort of thing, as if that's going to be a very important part of the game. You have to practice. You have to practice putting your hand over your mouth when you're talking to your teammates or talking to the coach. You may well have to practice keeping your hands in an unnatural position.
It's mad, isn't it?
Everybody keeps going on about a natural position. I'm going, well, it depends on how you play and depends how you react to certain situations. Your hands are in natural positions. A lot of the different times where they'll be unnatural, but a lot. It's confusing, and they keep changing it, don't they?
Keep changing.
So the Italians, they're going berserk the other night because they're going mental the other night in the first game. Because in every single game in Italy last year, in the professional game, it would have been for one of the handballs, it would have been a penalty, right? And what happens there, and it would be frustration for the coaches, is that they don't want their players getting distracted by things like that, because that's when the opposition are the most dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they mentioned it again after or any time of I did watch the post-match analysis of Scotland's performance against the Czech Republic, but I noticed some of the little details that happened in the games that could be really important. And before Marshall was in a situation where he was probably too far out his goals, in the first half he comes running right out his goals, in order to help out his defender, and he kicks the ball out for a throw-in. The ball boy immediately throws it to the Czech player, who's right switched on, and he's ready to throw the ball over David Marshall's head for a Donnybrook, a fight in the box. And Marshall, and he sprints. The first time he sprints in the game, you see him sprinting back in. He's not looking where the ball is. So if somebody throws it and they try a volley from out there, he's no chance because he can't see the ball. And it's just sometimes little tiny things. So I'm shouting at the television. I'm thinking, who's fucking training? Who's not training those ball boys?
Yeah.
You throw it back quickly to the Scottish team and you pretend to drop it.
Yeah.
Unless it's dependent on the score. Then if Scotland are winning, clearly the ball's you lose the ball, you drop the ball, or in Scotland need to get a goal, you get the ball back in quickly, and that's the sort of things. And I'm shouting at it, going, poor little child, you know.
He might be English.
Do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Check.
Small gains and small wins.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, the kids, the Scottish players getting castigated on the television for having a shot, and nobody mentions that Marshall's far too far off his goals. You know?
When you watch football, Brian, do you? I mean, obviously, if you're a Scotland fan or you want United to win or Celtic or Motherwell or whatever, do you watch it like with an analyst's eye, or do you get caught up in it?
I get completely caught up in it. At the end of the game, I'm tired. You know, yeah. I've gone through every different situation as it occurs and where it could possibly happen, and I get frustrated if that doesn't happen. I'm elated when it happens well, it's certainly been frustrating because of the situation that Celtic and United have been in. Celtic were poor last year, and I think United, in the sense of what I want to watch, are poor. I'm at the situation. Well, I'm now a bit like you mentioned. You're talking about De Bruyne and being able to appreciate good players in different teams as a kind of stepping away to. I can do that, and as much as it pains me immensely to say that at some points in the last couple of years I'd rather watch Liverpool and I'd rather watch City, because United's. We want to be entertained. I've always felt that, like yourself, you're going out there to do what you love doing, and you want to entertain people, and hopefully they will be entertained by you. That's what I want to see when I'm watching football. I don't want to see some kind of tactical sort of scenario where, right, we'll do this, and if we don't do this, I mean, I've always loved Matt Busby's thing about, that we're never concerned about if we lost a goal, because we always felt that we scored more goals than the opposition. I don't see that happening now. I know that United did it a lot last year by having this interesting little game to themselves where they go a goal or 2 goals down and then eventually come back into the game and win a vast majority of them. But this thing about playing, well, I say it's 4 centre-backs now, because you've got your 2 normal centre-backs, and then you've got 2 centre-backs that play in front of them. Because clearly the 2 centre-backs that play in normal positions are not good enough. So we have to put 2 condoms in front of them, just in case that breaks down. Yeah. I would rather they went the other way and played one, whatever it is, doesn't matter what team it is. And then, I mean, England did it the other night in their home tie. And I want to see as many flair players as they can. The rules have been changed dramatically since I was playing. There's nobody trying to welly you up the arse from behind and getting away with it, kicking you up in the air and all that kind of thing. So get as many attacking players on the pitches as they can. But they seems to have gone back the way. Is it because they haven't got the players though to play like that, or is it just a philosophy now? What that word? I hate that word, but maybe because they haven't got 2 really good centre halves, they've got to play 2 defensive midfielders. Yeah, well, that happens in a lot of the teams. And why did the goalkeeper keep giving the ball to them? Yeah. I mean, England got themselves in all sorts of trouble the other night by keep giving the ball to centre halves. Yeah. It's mad, isn't it, that? Do you know, I think, so, like, I'm not an expert on football at all. I've not studied any badges, just what I've watched over the years. But there's a few things that I think about football that I reckon that if they brought them in, if somebody tried them, I reckon they might work. Number one is, I'd say, when they do that lineup, but they have 2 players in the box and they're going to pass it to them and all that sort of thing, I just let it upfield, because the game's really stretched then. And if you've got fast players,
have a go at that. The other thing I'd do to improve football day one is I'd take the time off the referee. It's bullshit.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things they're looking at. They're talking about now having time and play.
Yeah, exactly. I play an hour. I play 1 hour on the whistle, and then everybody knows where they stand. And then I carry on playing until the ball goes out of play, because that'll still make it exciting.
Yeah, well, that was something they're having a look at. Well, one other thing,
I'd scrap VAR, the office at Brockley Park, wherever it is. I'd scrap that bit. What I'd do is I'd do it like in cricket. So the captain gets 3 chances.
Yeah.
So if you think it might be a goal and it gets given against you, you're allowed to appeal. Yeah. Why would you do that? Why would you do it? It makes it more interesting.
Well, also maybe it's because I've watched so much football and played so much football. A lot of the decisions I'm getting right the first time around. So I'm watching the Wales game on Saturday, and as soon as the second goal went in, I said that's offside. And it's nearly all the time, just because you play it and you're used to seeing what it is. I'm kind of intrigued about who decides where the lines are going to be, and who checks exactly where the lines are, whether it's all this works and where the lines are, you know. But my thing is, it's robbing the fans and the players that moment of when the fans can come back to football of those celebrations, you know. Just a little point you made there. Did you take your kids to the football? Have you taken to the football?
Yeah. That's been the thing. Yeah. So my son has been going with me since he was like tiny, and loves it. You know, as love. That's what we've done together. My daughter's 16 now, and she's kind of into it. She's kind of likes it, but she's not. I'll say to her, I've got a spare ticket for the match. You want to go? And she'll go, no, I'll do this. And then I'll go, I've got 2 spares now. Do you want to go with your mate? She goes, yeah, I'll go with me, mate. So she likes going with her mate, Ruben, and they have a good time. Yeah. But it's funny really, because I think as I've got older, and I think you touched upon it before, I said it in that other podcast that we were talking about, that like I just really enjoy going to the match, and I really that's what I've missed in the pandemic, is just meeting my mates and just those moments, you know what I mean? Those sort of like walking in the turnstile, seeing the same people that you see all the time, parking your car in a normal place, having some chips. You know, the football is secondary, really. It's the process, isn't it? Most people, when they go to mass, they don't get anything from the mass, do they? They get it from seeing the neighbours and clocking one up, letting people know they've been, and all those sorts of things. That's for me what I've really missed, and it's been a bit rubbish, really, hasn't it?
Yeah. Particularly for you, people like yourself who have relied on that, is that's because that's your job, isn't it? You know, that's your hobby. Going and having that interaction between you and your audience. And I would imagine it wouldn't really matter how many's in the audience. It's just that little bit about the challenge for you to say, right, I'm going to make you buggers laugh, or at least one of you laugh.
Yeah, there's been a thing. So we've been coming back and doing some socially distant stuff and everything else. And there's been moments that every performer, every comedian I know has been halfway through a gig, has just gone to the audience, it's really nice being here, you know. thanks for coming. We've really missed audiences. It's that, I think, you know, sort of like financially and everything else that goes on with that, you can cope with that and you deal with it in whichever way you deal with it. But just, I've been a bit rudderless, a bit pointless. There's been, you know, no need for me. I mean, I'm used to that anyway, being a 50-odd-year-old bloke now. There's no much point to me anyway, but my job is what I do, and it is me. You know, I get itchy. Even if I'm not gigging, I think at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I start getting ready for a gig, and, you know.
Yeah, if you fell in love with something, Justin, and you love doing it, so it's not a job.
No.
It's a hobby you get paid for.
That's exactly it.
The thing about that, you just alluded to it there and now, that I'm kind of expanding a little bit of something else you started listening to. You said on your own podcast that you've always been a spender, not a saver.
Yeah.
Has that kind of changed now? Have you gone the other side, or are you going to go a wee bit to the other side? Or
I don't think so. I think
you did say that, you know, if only part of the saving, if only you'd known there was going to be a global pandemic.
Yeah, plan for it.
Echoes away for a rainy day.
Yeah, some people have, and some people have been all right like that. But I'm not complaining. I mean, this is sort of like it's all relative, isn't it? I'm not complaining at all. But I do wish there's loads of things that I wish I was better at. But I think it's yin and yang, isn't it? I think if you were sort of more cautious in one aspect of your life, then you wouldn't be as free in another side of your life. And I like the fact that I have to work. I think to myself. That's why I don't do the lottery. If I won the lottery and I won 10 million quid, it'd ruin me. It would absolutely ruin me because I could not do work. I couldn't do nothing. And this is not some kind of like work ethic, kind of working class chip on it. No, it would drive me crackers not going into work not having something to do, deadlines, being behind on something. I love it. I love performing. I love showing off. I love theatres. I love what they smell like and, everything else. And love the traditions and comedy clubs. And, comedians are horrible, horrible, horrible people. But I love being backstage with them, listening to how horrible they can be, I was saying to somebody the other day, it's one of the things about one of the worst things you can say about a comedian is, and we never say it, they go, "Oh, Dave Smith, is he funny?" And the answer, if you say to somebody, "Is he funny?" they go, "He's a lovely lad." There's nothing worse. If you told me, they went, "I saw a mate of yours, comedian, and he said you're a lovely lad," I'd be like, "Oh no, he doesn't think I'm funny. He thinks I'm a lovely lad." That's the worst. That's the worst. So yeah, I just love it. I mean, I regret not doing it when I was 16, 17, 18. I wish I'd done it then. I wish I'd gone for it then. I really do. I really do. And people go, "Well, you wouldn't have been the same comedian." Well, I'd rather have had that risk because I was miserable until I did it. Absolutely miserable. Like mind-numbingly, what is the point of life miserable? Clinically depressed. Well, I didn't even know what that meant in those days, but
most people knew that, did they?
No, it's just boring. My life was so, and I knew I hated it, and I knew that I wanted to do something else, and I knew I had urges, but I didn't know what to do about it because I had no discernible talents.
Yeah, you were a really lovely bloke.
Yeah.
That's what I had occasionally. You were a lovely lad who was occasionally funny.
Yeah, he's a lovely lad though. Yeah.
Just even the daft little thing came into my head. That apparently that Ken Loach think you're the finest actor at getting egg on your jumper.
Yeah. Yeah. He had this thing because they film it all sequentially. That sometimes when you're doing filming, they sort of wrap you in take the costume off you for lunch and everything else. But if you get food down you, he goes, "That's fine. It's real life, isn't it?" He said, "You might have just got egg on you after we'd filmed that bit and then we did that bit and you might have had an egg sandwich in between." He was he didn't really care about that sort of thing. He was pretty good about that. Can I ask you a question, Brian?
Of course, yeah.
When you score a goal.
Yeah.
When you scored a goal.
Yeah, it's better than sex.
No, I don't mean that.
It's lasted longer as well.
Yeah. But do you sort of what do you enjoy most? Because I remember reading the first bit of Rooney's biography. It's a really good bit where he describes that overhead goal he scores against City. I mean, I don't know whether he wrote it or somebody helped him, but it's a really kind of lovely description of how it comes. Sometimes when I'm on stage and I'm about to and I'm having a really good gig and it's bouncing along, and I almost sometimes feel it's like you're in charge of an orchestra and you're playing the audience, and I find that so exhilarating and otherworldly, and I'm about to do a joke and I know what I'm going to say and I know how they're going to react. I get into this kind of weird space. Is the moments where you're on the football pitch and as the ball's coming over, you talk about visualization and all that now, but you know how you're going to hit it, you know where it's going to go, and you're almost celebrating before you hit it inside.
Most of the time I didn't know where it was going to go.
You're saying that, you're being modest.
No, but the thing about you saying is, you're going to do that and you hit the ball, or maybe a pass, or I didn't do a lot of tackling because I thought it was vulgar. So, but to score a goal is like that, and the peak of your performance when you get to that, when you know you've got the audience there, and you know that when you deliver that punchline, they are going to be pissing themselves.
Yeah.
Same I feel about it's real elation, and the elation of that you scored that goal. It didn't matter what the goal's like, because the feeling is exactly the same.
Yeah.
You look at that mental goal that I tapped in it to another one at Hillsborough. With ricochets. It's a comedy goal. There was a thing on there. Somebody put it on somewhere on the interweb where the ball isn't actually there.
Yeah,
right? Taking the ball out of it, but they've shown you all these daft things that footballers are doing in that period of time.
You did do your best to miss that, by the way, because I was behind the goal that day. And
well, it was only like an inch. I mean, I couldn't have missed that.
What year was that?
October 1991. That wasn't it?
At Hillsborough. I love Sheffield. I used to. That's my favourite place to go and watch United. Sheffield. Yeah. You know, both grounds. A few years ago, we were there, and it was kicking off outside Sheffield United. And my mate was stood on the lay-by, he's eating some chips, and he had an hat on it, and it said United on it. Just said United, not Man United or Sheffield United. And this Sheffield United fan goes, "Are you Man U, yo?" He went, "What?" He goes, "Are you Man U, yo?" And he went, "Ugh," and walked off. But those, like, when you score, when players score, and we as fans, we sort of like we have that moment, don't we, where we lose it, we don't know what's going on, and it's just, you know, mind blowing. It must be. And then I often think about, how do you come back down to earth then? You know, you get all that kind of, you know, hey, come on, think, you know, everyone does all that, don't they, when you score? I used to hate that when we used to play. We used to get beat 9-0 off teams. And they'd score the 8th one, and then they'd come back to the centre and they'd be going to each other, 0-0, lads, 0-0. We're like, fucking 8-0, lads. Come on.
You get conditioned in that there was always a trepidation and maybe a touch of fear when you've got Alex Ferguson as your manager, because you know that you would get a hairdryer for what I would have considered sometimes the most innocuous things, and for several years later on, not just at that moment. So that one of my things is about that you have to switch back on, get back in focus, whatever they're saying, is in that if something happened in that moment, say if it was just before half time, if you thought you were culpable, you were going to get the hairdryer first, and the first one after half time was always the worst one. So there was always an apprehension that, you know, if I'd done something before half time that I knew was an error, I'd passed the ball to the opposition, or I'd miscontrolled it, or I'd maybe done something that I thought, oh, there's a good chance that he won't like this, because I'll look over in his faces already turning purple. I used to pray that somebody else would make a mistake in that small period of time. And that was probably the second most joyous moment on the football pitch at Manchester United for me, was the scoring of goal was the best one, but somebody else making a mistake after me gave me an incredible relief and joy that I might be getting it anyway. I don't know, but I'm not going to get the full force right after it, you know. So
I love that story of the dressing room when Cantona jumps in the crowd, and apparently he comes on and he goes, "You were shit, you done that, you were shit, it's terrible." And then says to Eric, "You can't be doing that, you know, Eric." Is that a true story?
Well, yeah, because what happens is that Lee Sharp dines out on this, and quite rightly. What happens is that Eric does. I didn't see it. I didn't actually see it. But I come off the pitch, and Gary Walsh was the reserve team, the substitute goalkeeper, is telling me that Eric's come through the guy in the crowd. That's not physically possible. I did physics at university. That's not possible. That's defying the laws of physics, because that bit goes right down. And the time that I hear a noise as Eric's getting escorted to the side, and then there's a stushy going on at the side of the pitch. To me, looking, Eric standing on the pitch, he cannot have come through someone and managed to get up and land in. I thought he'd landed in there, get up. It's about a 3-foot drop, and get back up onto the pitch again in that period of time. Not possible. Now, I know he definitely. Well, Eric didn't get any of those. And we thought, oh, this is going to be the time he's going to get it. You know, it must be. You know, nobody. We've all been annoyed at fans, both pro and con, for comments you can hear, and but this is nobody's ever, in my time, ever come close to getting involved physically with somebody. Never mind an incredibly athletic and sometimes maybe a balletic event in a football game. And Eric's sitting there as we go in, looking contrite, but we're looking forward to it because we're thinking, well, he's going to get he's going to get it, you know, he's going to get it. And he comes in and he's one of these top ones because he nearly takes the hinges off the door. It's a small dressing room. And he just launches into everybody. This is just exactly that. You're shit. You're fucking rubbish. You're crap. You're fucking hopeless. You're this. And we thought we were quite happy to take it at this moment. We're happy to take it because we're thinking, well, bring it on. It's no problem. What are you going to get to him? And he gets to it, and it's like it's a bit like telling a joke how he did it, and that's why it's so amusing to tell us a story. He's gone through all that bit, the preamble. He's built it up. He's leading it up. He's leading the band. He's got his baton waving away, and getting to the bit where it's going to go bang, where the cannon goes off, and Eric's going to get a hairdryer. And we're all waiting there with bated breath, all silent, still looking. Yes, this is the moment we've been waiting for. And he turns around and he looks at Eric and he goes, Eric. And he looks up he did actually look very contrite, like a little puppy. And he looks up at him, sad, and he just said, "You can't be doing that sort of thing, son." And then we thought, well, there'll be something after that. And then he just went, "Get your fucking shower."
Life with Brian, life with Brian, life with Brian.
Justin, you won Celebrity Mastermind not long ago. I don't know if you were aware of that, Brian, but it just made me think.
Yeah, you got 17 in general knowledge.
Yeah, well, it made me wonder what your specialist subject would be if you went on Celebrity Mastermind or even just Mastermind.
Well, today my subject would be Justin Moorhouse. After all the research I've been doing and all the stuff I've been listening to, got up at 5 o'clock this morning to download a couple of podcasts, which were very good. Thoroughly enjoyed those last two you did. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Your daughter is very funny.
She's all right, isn't she? Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
But your chosen subject, Justin, was Les Dawson.
Yeah.
Is that being a student of comedy, or what inspired your choice of him as a specialist subject?
Yeah, I liked him before I was a comedian. I liked his sort of story. I always say this, I like working class, clever. I like people that come and sort of like overachieve their sort of origins. So I like people like him, and I used to like Tony Wilson for the same reason. People like Mark Radcliffe and people like that. I just like these, because I didn't have older brothers. For me, they're like older brothers. They went and did stuff. So I just thought he was he came from slums, and he's an intellectual and a comedian. I think that's what I like about him. He'd be welcome anywhere, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so how confident are you then that if we give you 5 questions in a minute about the great man, that you could?
Oh wow!
We're putting you on the spot here. And I'm kind of on the spot because these questions have been given to me, and I obviously don't know the questions. I only know the answer. So Mark, if you hit the stopwatch.
Okay.
Question 1. Like Manchester United legends Brian Kidd and Nobby Stiles, Dawson was born in which area of Manchester?
Collyhurst.
Correct. Dawson debuted on British TV when appearing on Opportunity Knocks in 1967. In which year did he take over presenting the show from Bob Monkhouse?
80. No, I don't know. 81.
Incorrect. 1990. In his famous routine with Roy Barraclough, where the pair dressed as elderly female gossips.
Yeah.
What was Dawson's character called?
Ada Shufflebottom.
Correct. Dawson was the subject of This Is Your Life on 2 occasions, once in 1971 and again in 1992 when he was surprised on stage in Plymouth by host Michael Aspel during the curtain call of which pantomime?
Babes in the Wood.
Incorrect.
Dick
Whittington. What is the name of the sculptor who created Dawson's bronze memorial statue that stands in Livingston Anns in Lancashire and made of commemorative works of Cary Grant, Eric Morecambe, Benny Hill and Laurel and Hardy? I've started, so I'll finish. It's Graham Ibsen.
Ibsen, yeah.
Ibsen. Okay, so what was that? Three from 5? Not bad.
No, 2 from 5. 2 out of 5.
Two. How many did you get? How many did you get on the actual Mastermind?
All of them.
You obviously haven't done your homework. But then again, we did throw this
I planned it, yeah.
We threw this on you somewhat, but anything for a cheap gag.
Bastards. I'm just going to look. I've got my books there. Could have got my Les Dawson books here.
No, we did put you on the spot somewhat.
The full collection of Les is there. My trophies there, my Mastermind trophies there as well.
Just one final question. Do you actually like cricket, or do you just like collecting wisdoms?
I love cricket. There's my wisdoms.
It's a very impressive collection for those who can't see. You're a cricket man, aren't you, Brian? For people that don't know that.
I love cricket,
yeah.
And why was it what was it you told me at the weekend why you like cricket so much? Is it purely to see England get beaten?
What I like at the moment is because England aren't very good. That's why I like it.
I've watched cricket in Scotland. I've watched cricket in Edinburgh.
Yeah, Scotland beat England there a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, when I was, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12, India played a game in Coatbridge, and the weather wasn't the best, so there wasn't any play in the morning. And I remember going down to the pavilion and having a peek into the pavilion, and they had prawn cocktails on the table for the lunch. I don't think I'd ever seen silver service at that point, but they silver service. I was like,
some could argue that people in Coatbridge still haven't seen but I wouldn't say that.
No, there was some play in the afternoon. I just thought it was brilliant. I think it's I like it even more listening to it on a video.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? What I like about it is that you carry it around with you all the time. So you watch a bit on the telly, you get in the car, it's still going on. I like it when it's in Australia. I get up in the middle of the night and listen to it. I just think it's just nice. I'm going on Sunday.
Well, that'll be good for you in the winter, because you're getting up at 5 anyway, aren't you? You can do it meditating before the cricket starts, can't you?
I can, yeah. Well, I'm off to. I'm going to Tokyo for the Olympics in a few weeks. So, working for. I work for a sponsor and Team GB. So I don't know if there's any test matches out while I'm there, but it'll be similar weird times out there.
Have you been to Japan?
Yeah, I've been to Tokyo a couple of times. But when I went, we just stayed in like Roppongi and like this kind of expat stuff, and not expat stuff, but the westernized stuff. And then I thought it'd be great. We'd go for 2 or 3 weeks to the Olympics, and then I wanted to get trains and go to some different places, but we can't do anything. We have to,
of course,
get in, get out. It's gonna be. It's work, so that's the main. At least I've got some work for once.
I like the way you just moved over Roppongi as if that was a really, 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 really nice part of town to stay in.
I don't know if it is or it isn't, because I didn't see anything else.
No.
Lots
of karaoke bars there.
Yeah, it's that kind of like office workers drinking and the salaryman type stuff, isn't it? And all that. There's a pet shop there that I saw, this pet shop, and it's so incongruous with everything else going on around there. This sort of business district, and there's this pet shop, and I said, "What's the pet shop there?" And he went, "Oh, right. What happens is some like Western guys will have a girlfriend, and before they're leaving, the girls will say like, 'Buy me a puppy so I can remember you,' and they buy them a puppy for like $800, and then the bloke goes home to his wife, and then they sell it back to the pet shop for $400, and these dogs just go round and round and round."
Montclair's mailbag, Montclair's mailbag, Montclair's mailbag.
It's question time once again, but instead of Fiona Bruce, we've got Matthew.
Oh, thanks very much. Ryan Coyle, friend of the show, he asked you, Brian, if you picked 3 ex-teammates to go on a night out with, who would it be and where would you go?
And then a night out with Tommy Burns, Gordon Strachan, and Eric, and we would go to, I think maybe go to Tokyo.
Yeah, karaoke bars.
Well, that's the very end of the night. You've got to go watch other places that are interesting for that. But you're not allowed in. You can't. Well, last time I was there, you couldn't get in. You had to be a member or Japanese to get into the best of the karaoke bars.
Have you ever done karaoke?
Have I ever done it?
Yeah.
No.
What would you do if you were?
What would I do?
Yeah.
It's just too many songs to think about. White Man and Hammersmith Ballet.
Decent show. What's your go-to, Justin?
I can't sing.
That doesn't stop a lot of people doing karaoke.
No. I always think I want to go something left field, you know. just go karaoke bar. Just go, have you got any Delgados? just gonna lay this out there for you, boys. I think I'd something joyous, something like "Come On, Eileen" or something like that, just to get the crowd going. So if you can't sing it, get everybody else singing it. That's the main thing.
True. What was yours, Mark? Surely your wet number, wasn't it?
Oh Christ, no. I've actually done karaoke in Tokyo before, a long time ago now. But yeah, and it was like a 6-story building, like a hotel or something. But every room in the place was a karaoke room, and you could hire it out. And, you would phone in for pizza and beer, and there'd just be like this massive table, and you'd all have the screen in front of you. And I went with a load of Japanese businessmen whose English was pretty ropey, and I don't speak any Japanese at all. And so here's me singing Queen, Don't Stop Me Now, or Burning Love by Elvis. And it was piss poor, to be honest. But then they had to go. And of course, I'm the only one who could pronounce the words properly. So they were absolutely lapping it up, thinking I was the second, I was going to be big in Japan just because I could actually speak the language. But and I was in Manchester a couple of years ago. And what did I do there? I think I did Fat Bottom Girls by Queen. They seem to be my go-to on the old karaoke. Queen and Elvis.
Go-to band.
Yeah, you do. Actually, all this time we've been chatting, I've thought, who does he remind me of? And it's Freddie Mercury. It really is. I'd love to have seen you, Tommy, Gordon Strachan, and Eric Cantona walking around Tokyo. That would have been a sight for sore eyes, wouldn't it? Like, that'd have been like train spotting free.
Okay, the next one, the last question we got here is from Solipsism. Is it, Brian? Solipsism? Yeah. And they say, I met you at a snooker club. You're opening with Ali McCoy's, Davy Cooper and Chris Woods when I was a wee guy, and I asked if it was true you were going to Man United. You said, I'll never leave Celtic, wee man. Then you were gone a few days later. How could you lie to me?
Well, I wasn't lying at the time, because if at that moment in time that was be the truth, so the decision wouldn't have been made at that particular point. So I didn't lie.
That's a very diplomatic answer. So it was up to the last minute, was it?
Yeah, very last minute.
Any doubts whether you were going to go at all?
Yeah, always doubts. Yeah. I mean, there was doubts after I went. After I got my first hairdryer, there were several doubts.
You've cleared that up now. You put it on the record. You can even apologise if you want to, but I won't.
Oh, I know that I did upset several people, but it's one of Frankie Boyle's, a fellow comedian of Justin's. One of the things he's mentioned as well about breaking his heart as whatever age he was at that time as well.
You can't. The Celtic fans are not a forgiving type. I did the tour about 2 years ago, just after Brendan Rodgers had left, and the guy there, I don't know if you know him, David McLaughlin, who invited me to do the tour, and he gave me the full kind of like experience. Loved it. An hour and a half we're in there, did everything. Not one mention of Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, you can't even mention his name now. There's two people you can't mention the name in the history of Celtic Football Club.
You and Brendan Rodgers?
No, that would be quite that. In an ironic way, I'd quite like that. Get him to not be one of there's the unmentionable. There's two unmentionable ones now. So there's one that ended up playing for. He's unmentionable 1-1. And the Leicester manager is unmentionable 1-2.
You're not quite in that company yet, then, Brian.
Well, I like that phrase. My mate's a big Celtic fan. He always calls them them. Them.
I'm intrigued to know, Brian, what were you doing opening a snooker club with 3 Rangers legends, though?
No, I don't know. I was clearly the token, wasn't I? Must have been.
Yeah, and then 2 days later he buggered off. So I mean,
I think maybe that club was with like Airdrie, and maybe the following night I opened the one in Coatbridge where there was 3 Celtic players and 1 Rangers player. Maybe that was when it was a tour opening snooker clubs. It wasn't the Loudon Tavern, was it?
One of my favourite Rangers Celtic type things is, the DJ Graham Park.
Yeah.
He's an Aberdeen fan, but he gets a phone call when Rangers were playing in the Europa UEFA Cup final in Manchester. He said, Graham, can you come down to the fan park? He said, it's a nightmare. It's going off. Like, they're throwing bottles of piss at the DJ. It's a nightmare. So Graham goes, what? And he goes, we'll give you this amount of money. So Graham goes, all right, I'll get down there. He says, he walks in. He said, and everything's bedlam. Ah! And he listens, and they're playing the best of Simple Minds. He said he walks in. Because he walks in, he just puts Tina Turner on. He said the place goes mental. And they went, you're a genius. I thought they'd like Simple Minds. They're from Glasgow.
Yay.
That then is our cue to sign off. Justin, it's been a pleasure having you on. I hope you've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it immensely. Yes, thank you very much.
Fantastic. What have you got planned for the summer?
I'm going to Japan for the Olympics, hopefully. Got some gigs lined up. Some outdoor stuff, some indoor stuff. And hopefully, if we get back to normal, I write some new jokes and then plan a tour for next year. Maybe the Fringe, and go up to Edinburgh. Now I can stay at Brian's now. I know he lives in Edinburgh. Yeah, I've got a place to stay.
Welcome to State 9, yeah. Yeah,
and so that's what I'm doing. Just carrying on, really, and doing stuff. Just trying to be a good human being. What am I saying?
A lovely human being.
Yeah, a nice, a lovely bloke. Yeah. And this summer, I'll mostly be panicking because my daughter's 16 and going to a festival. Awesome. So that's what I'm panicking about.
Well, good luck with that. Good luck with the tour and the trip to Japan and everything else. And you can follow Justin on Twitter at Justin Moorhouse to keep abreast of what he's up to and where you can catch him in the future. Choccy, Matthew, thanks very much as always.
No problem. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Justin. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
We're fairly rattling through these episodes now, aren't we? So thanks for sticking with us. We hope to see you again soon. So don't forget to hit subscribe on your chosen podcast platform. Leave us a nice review if you like, and say hello on Twitter at Brian McClare Pod, where we share bits and bobs, and you can get your questions in for Brian. So until we meet again, cheerio.
Life with Brian, talking films or music. Life with Brian, talking TV and food. Life with Brian, talking trivia and exercise. Life with Brian is different every episode. Life with Brian.